Hey guys, it's Adam from LUCIDPIXUL and welcome back. Now today's email is dedicated to somebody who had messaged me earlier this week. I'm going to protect her anonymity, of course. I won't say what her name is, but let's say she's a young woman from Germany. Her email, which is an incredibly relatable topic, which is why I made an art talk, why I'm making an art talk about it in the first place, was incredibly passionate and very, very authentic. She was somebody who came across to me as being very healthy emotionally, but had this need, this desire, this purpose in life to find a passion, and struggled with the fact that she had a hard time finding this passion. And when she discovered, as she describes in her email, when she discovered concept art and illustration, she experienced for the first time in her life that, quote, zing, as they say in Hotel Transylvania. She found her true love. And there really was emotionally no looking back for her. She just wanted it. She just obsessed over it. And she approached a teacher of hers who she has a lot of respect for, who she cared a lot for. Obviously, by the sounds of the way she described her relationship with her teacher, somebody she really liked, right? But that said, the teacher told her, either in a compassionate, loving way or in a not compassionate, loving way, I'm not quite sure, but replied to her, "You're never going to make it in that field." Now, if it was any other field in the world, you'd probably interpret that as, that teacher sounds like a bit of an asshole. But all things said, if you think about the history of an art career, the history of how art careers have been regarded over the centuries, yeah, a lot of people tend to have that feeling, especially if you come from a little bit more of a traditional, practical family background or traditional, practical, professional background. Art has always been regarded as that flimsy, unstable, uncertain, competitive industry where only the strongest survive and the rest of them are left on the streets as paupers and beggars. Very common. Now, I personally never dealt with that obstacle, namely because I was raised by a mother who was, an artist, who had a degree in fine arts. Albeit, even though she never said to me, "Adam, you're making a mistake, don't do it," she in her own life decisions had made a very important professional decision to abandon art for a while and get a degree in computer science, and made a very good living with that as a computer scientist at first, but then combining that into producing computer graphics and blah, 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 blah. I've described that story in the past, right? So through her own practical decisions did decide I have a family of 3 to raise on my own, and I had to do something about it because a bachelor in fine arts wouldn't do it for me. But she never said, "Adam, don't do it." She said, "Good luck, have fun," right? And I did. And yeah, I dealt with many of my own, battle scars over the years. Heck, what the hell do you think my art talks are about in the first place? They're mostly about my battle scars, aren't they? So, listening to this young German woman describe this passion of hers, and to go on saying that she also, from a family perspective, had a father who didn't necessarily support that either. Again, I don't know her family history. I don't know her personally. I'm replying to a single, very, very quick email, whether it be through loving or through unsupportive means. Her father did not support that either. And that, on the surface at least, hurt. And it quashed that spark. And it really hurt. But here's the thing. Listening to her describe this, obviously that passion, obviously that zing, that spark that she experienced was real. Because it hurt. And it didn't hurt temporarily. She's writing me this email years after the fact. She had actually formulated that email as a thank you letter for my art talks, and thanking me for, the words of encouragement that I share, and the words of comfort or or education or wisdom that I share in my art talks and stuff like that. But I'm listening to what she's saying and I'm thinking, despite those obstacles, despite the being very firmly shut down on pursuing these passions, years later, here she is, still conflicted about that and still reaching out to me to let me know that my art talk brought her some kind of reassurance, that there was somebody out there that thought and felt the same way she did. I mean, it's a very, very niche thing being an artist, is it not? Right? And what motivates us, what drives us is very complex. It's very personal. Some people are motivated by technical perfection. Some people are motivated by emotional expression. Some people are motivated through escapism. There's a million different years why we might pursue art. Some people do it through personal growth and enlightenment. In her particular case, she just knew that that passion was there. She knew that she was surrounded by people who didn't support her. So what did she do? Did she buckle under the pressure of all of these people not supporting her? Or did she desperately reach out for that one person who did, who did share her passion, who did share her desire to pursue this despite more practical advice? And that in and of itself says a lot. And it made me reflect on some of these inexplicable decisions that I've made over the years that I've spoken about on my channel. Like why all these years later, despite all the shit I had to deal with as an artist, am I here 40 years later still doing it? Why am I here 40 years later still working towards this? Why did I allow myself to go through this much shit just to get to where I am today, where I've finally found some kind of stability? And to be completely honest with you, regardless of the relationship or the personality of the people that she had described in her email to me, I can empathize with them too. I'm a father. I've got 3 kids of my own. I can empathize with a father who might say, that's a bad idea. And I have to fight that impulse to say, stop, don't do that, as a lot of parents do. And yeah, but at the same time, I have to objectively be able to look at a decision that somebody else makes and say, hey, maybe they're going to figure something out that I didn't. Maybe they're going to just make a discovery that I wasn't strong enough or wise enough or wasn't in the right place or the right time to be able to make that decision at that particular point in my life. And I have to just have faith in my kids I have to have faith in their strengths and their wisdom. I have to have faith in their ability to be resilient to failure, to be able to be wise to failure. So, yes, I can very much understand the father's perspective too. And I'm very grateful that this young woman reached out to me, this young German woman reached out to me. And I'm glad about the fact that she said, my father feels this way and my teacher felt that way, because I can see their perspective too. I'm not just sitting there as a fellow young professional saying, yeah, screw them. What do they know? They're such assholes. No, I can empathize with both sides of the coin in that regard. Now that said, I also know love. I know it all too well, for better or for worse. I'm very, very familiar with love. I'm very familiar with passion. And it has been, in many ways, the greatest blessings of my life. It has contributed to the greatest things that I possess. It has given me the courage to pursue things that I otherwise never would have been able to endure. But it's also been a horrible curse of mine. It has brought me a lot of pain. It has brought me a lot of loss. It's brought me a lot of confusion. It's brought me a lot of struggle. And I'm not only speaking about love objectively, as in relationships and my heart's pursuits. I'm talking about the love and passion for things that I care for, my professional pursuits, my hobbies. And the first thing that popped into my head when she talked about discovering that zing, that passion, I didn't actually reflect on discovering art. I do remember that moment in my life when I was in elementary school and I won that Scholastic book art contest. I still remember that drawing to this day that made me realize, holy shit, I might not be a popular kid, but I sure can get some popularity through my art. I seem to be accomplished in that regard. I do remember that moment where I realized I had something there. But I more specifically remembered when I discovered dance, something I've described. Walking in to what was at the time known as the swing ring during the big resurgence of swing dancing. Walking into this building, walking past on the bottom floor into this old building in Montreal, past some Cuban cigar lounge, which some old guys looking at me funny because I was dressed, I was some young kid walking into their establishment, and walking upstairs and hearing the stomping on the ceiling above me from all the swing dancers dancing, only hearing muffled stomping sounds. And then as I walked up this old staircase, this very old building that was probably built back in the 19th century with kind of slightly warped mahogany stairs, and then opening up this door to this unsuspecting place, and I opened up the door and revealed hundreds of young swing dancers dressed up as if they were straight out of the 1920s, with a stage in the back and a big fancy chandelier in the middle, people doing flips and jumps and lifts and spins, and there's a stage with some big guy, big swing daddy in his yellow zoot suit and his big feather sticking out of his hat, with this tiny little record player, almost looking something straight out of a Chuck Jones cartoon, playing some incredible music. And just I can't describe that feeling. It's like walking into the past. It's like taking a time machine into the 1920s. And I stood there at the bar, mouth agape, for about an hour or two, I don't know, because time flew by very quickly, leaning on the bar with my elbows, looking at the dance floor, and knowing, without a single shadow of doubt in my being, that this was going to be something I would love for the rest of my life. I experienced the zing. What can I tell you? I fell in love. It was true. It was love at first sight, and I knew it. And well, 20 plus years later, here I am. Still loving dance. Now, I moved on from swing, as I've described, and I got into salsa later on. But I know that love. I know that true love. I know that feeling. I know the hundreds of life experiences I've had, the people I've met, the stories I can tell, the things I've created in those communities, the relationships that I've had. And oh God, it's just, I could go on forever talking about it. It's just magical to me, and that's never stopped. And I can only imagine the way, reading her email to me, the experience she had when she realized, I can do this, I can be a part of this magic, that she felt this personal spiritual connection, this emotional connection to art. I can so relate to that feeling. And what can you do? What power do you have to resist something like that when it grips you? When something grips your heart and your soul like that, what do? Do you say, yeah, that's great, but nah, it's not a smart decision? Well, obviously that's not the case, because of all of the struggles that has led her to, and how much it meant to her to finally be able to just reach out to anybody, to be able to say thank you for reaffirming this passion, because in my immediate surroundings, nobody gets me. I'm not in the right environment to have this kind of passion, because I can't sit down, have a coffee with somebody, and share this passion with them. I feel very, very alienated with this passion, and whenever I do try to express it, it probably comes across to all of the adults, and the more practical minded, the more professional, the more successful, the more accomplished people who I trust and who I love and I care for. And they say, no, man, just no. Yeah, we get it. Yeah, it's very cute. That's fine, but it's not a good decision. And no, you're going to end up getting your heart broken. Yeah. That's a very tough place to be. I can only imagine the way I feel about art, how much of my life, how many experiences I've had. I mean, it is me. I mean, if you took art out of my life, what would happen to me? What would become of me? Well, I've kind of emotionally prepared for that. You know, what if I got arthritis so bad in my hands that I just couldn't draw anymore? What if I was paralyzed from the shoulder down? What if I couldn't draw? Well, I've realized, I've had to learn, and thankfully I have learned, that art is more than just a craft. Art is a form of expression. I consider these art talks an artistic expression. That's probably why a lot of you artists out there can relate to these art talks, is because I approach the philosophy and the emotional aspects and the communication that I consider art is in every facet of communication, be it dance, be it music, be it talking to you right now. This podcast, I guess you can call it a podcast. I don't know what to call this. It's an art talk, right? It's an extension of my artistic self. So if I one day decided that I couldn't draw anymore, if something came between me and my ability to create paintings, I don't think that would stop me entirely. But I've been around a little bit longer. I've had a chance to expand my horizons artistically a little bit more. I've found a way to branch out my abilities into different facets of my life, creating videos and creating music and learning about lighting and learning about music and learning about dance and all these different things. So there's other ways I could utilize this. Maybe at her young age, this young German woman has not discovered that side of herself, has not realized that there's more to art than just doing drawings. What she has discovered, however, is a conduit. What she has discovered is a means to an end. She has this deep inner desire to express herself in an artistic way. Her email was a reflection of that. Reading that email, that to me was an artist speaking to me. I felt absolute artistic authenticity. I didn't hear some over-romanticized young kid who says, oh, I know how to draw. I knew how to do really good puppy drawings growing up, you know? And, you know, she wasn't somebody who just kind of liked to doodle. This is somebody who really found an artistic voice, who really lives and breathes this and only discovered this now, who probably has been forced to experience these different venues or explore these different venues in her life and never felt that fulfillment, never felt that satisfaction that art brought her. And when she finally experimented with it, realized, holy shit, that's my true love. That's what I've been looking for. So yes, I think that's a very long-winded way of saying, yeah, you're the real deal. And yes, I can also very much empathize with the incredible frustration that you might be feeling right now. Having well-meaning loved ones, or maybe total douchebags, like I said, I don't know, that aren't supporting that. And it's amazing how many consultations or students that I teach and stuff like that, where this is a very big topic of discussion. Being from a culture, being from a family, being from a geographical location where that kind of, that's a very interesting sounding bird out there. I don't know if you can hear that in the microphone. It sounds exotic. I don't know what that is, but it sounds very pretty and a bit distracting. But yeah, maybe you come from a cultural background that doesn't support that, right? And or from a family that doesn't support that, because, you know, like my mother growing up, she was raised by a Polish father who only believed engineer. If you're not engineer, you're a bum. That's a Polish grandfather for you, right? And he didn't believe in it. And my mother, being the rebellious woman she was, said, yeah, screw you, I'm going to do it anyways. And she did. And there you go. She ended up producing offspring that did it as well, multiple generations of them. So I want to walk in from two perspectives today. I want to reply to this very tight spot she finds herself in right now, emotionally and professionally, from two perspectives. From a father's perspective and from a passionate artist's perspective, who knows full well that I am a slave to my passion, and who knows how this passion of yours could be a blessing and can be a source of great happiness and stability and fulfillment in ways that I want everybody on earth to experience, but can also be a terrible, terrible source of pain and stress and uncertainty. And that stress and pain and uncertainty can last long enough to destroy a passion if certain wise decisions, certain wise perspectives aren't adopted along the way. And if you don't balance these two aspects of yourself, if you don't find a means to be able to approach your career wisely, you can allow it to kill you, and I mean that figuratively, of course, not literally. It's not going to kill you literally, but it can kill your passion, and you can find yourself at a certain point in your life where you're sitting there going, wow, I really lived a pretty shitty life because of this. And I don't wish that on anybody. So here's the thing. When it comes to your passion, when it comes to your pursuits, when you experience that true love as an artist, you need to fulfill that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You need to fulfill that. You need to make that a part of yourself. If you don't, you're going to spend the rest of your life feeling utterly empty. You're going to spend the rest of your life on the cusp of trying to run away from whatever prison you feel yourself in, whatever practicality prison you find yourself in. It's amazing how many friends I've had who lived that secure life, personal friends of mine, couples, married, they've got the nice house by the mountain, they've got the 2.5 kids and the pool out in the backyard and the RV and the good job and the nice suit and the excellent haircut and the straight white teeth. And butchered it. Absolutely butchered it. For ridiculous reasons, Had an affair with somebody who they didn't give a shit about. Who wasn't even interesting. Who is just a reason to butcher this stability. I watched it happen time and time again. And then I would sit down on the couch and sitting down having a coffee or a drink or something like that. And I'm sitting there going, I fucked up. I'm such a loser. Why did I do this? I had it all. And I sit there going, stop crying. You did it on fucking purpose. You did it on purpose. You did it because I've watched you over the last 5-10 years. I've watched the blood drain out of your face for the last 15 years while you tried to pretend to be happy. And you're not happy. You're a person who's filled with passion, who's not in love. You're not fulfilled. You kind of found a safe spot at 25 years old, and you've been riding this safety button for the last 2 decades. And I said, and after you hit that safety spot, you've slowly been draining yourself of resources until eventually you found yourself going, wow, I'm going through midlife crisis. I'm now at a point where the novelty of stability just doesn't do it for me anymore. The novelty of fulfilling these lifestyle criteria don't do it for me anymore. And you realize how fucking superficial it all is, and that you're meant for more. So I said, no, don't sit there like a pussy and feel bad about yourself. Sit there and realize you finally had the balls to force change. So good. I'm glad you're fucking suffering. Good. I'm glad you feel like shit. You're still a good dad. You still live in, you still have a stable relationship with your kids. You still have a professional standard. You're perfectly capable of getting yourself up and brushing yourself off and moving forward. But this time, do something interesting. This time, do something that has that requires a little bit more of you than just showing up. You know? And fast forward a couple years later, never seen happier people in my life. They fulfilled the practicality early on in their life. They got the stability. They got the bank account and the Tesla. Good for you. Now they're approaching the second half of their life with a little bit more selfishness, a little bit more exploration, a little bit more passion. Then there's artists like me. There's people like me who pursued the early phase of their professional career without any wisdom whatsoever. You know, I kind of walked in and said, this is what I want to do. I love it. This is my passion. I'm pursuing it. Come hell or high water, let's go. And I approached my career without much practicality, without much planning whatsoever. I just tried to draw the best drawings I could, and I just applied to as many jobs as I could. And what did I have to deal with? I had to deal with a lot of being broke for many, 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 many years. I had to deal with a lot of finding work, a lot of unemployment insurance, a lot of feeling completely dependent, a lot of being down on myself. But I wouldn't have been where I am today. And I don't think any professional artist, and I'm speaking specifically to artists, and I'm speaking to my friend in Germany here, we wouldn't be in this position. I wouldn't be in this position in my life right now if I didn't learn a couple of very important skills. And when it comes to listening to professionals, there's something incredibly important you need to do. You need to learn the art of objectivity. I think that's probably one of the most important skills I've ever learned, because as more passionate folk, as folk who love to pursue our dreams, we're the Thelma and Louises of the career-minded people. You know, we'll just drive off a cliff, and hopefully when we make impact with the ground, it doesn't completely obliterate us, right? We take a lot of chances, we take a lot of risks, we do a lot of that kind of stuff. If all you are is about risk taking, yeah, maybe 1% of us survive that, but I'd say the gross majority of us don't. And if you don't learn how to objectively look at what you produce as an artist, if you don't have the professional ability to say, this is my passion, but I also need to find a way to experience this passion and utilize this passion over the long term. I don't want to be a fast-burning fuel of passion that dies out quickly. I want to be able to find a way to keep this flame lit for the rest of my life. You need to be able to look at your own artwork objectively and say, as a professional, what skills, what skill level, what focus, what techniques, what fundamentals do I need to master in order to make myself employable? You need to know, firstly, what kind of art career you're best suited for. You need to know what kind of art career your personality is the best fit for. You need to understand what kind of personal style you have that makes you the most compatible with different job types. You can't just walk into a studio or make an application to a trading card company or an illustration company and say, I really love art, give me a job. No, there's criteria. There are professional expectations that studios or clients or different artistic job types have. And if and when you're going to reach out to a school, to a teaching institution, to a mentorship, to any of the above, you need to be able to reach out to somebody who can help you discover that. I think that to me as a teacher and as a mentor, it's probably one of the most important focuses that I have. It's my ability to get to know my student, get to know the person who I'm working with and say, okay, who are you? What's your focus? What are your strengths? Tell me about your childhood, What kind of things did you nerd out about growing up? And I really make a strong point of figuring that person out and seeing how clear a sense of self they have. Because a true testament of a real professional is somebody who has a very good sense of self. They have the ability to see themselves from the third perspective, to take an outsider's perspective of themselves objectively. I think of artists like Marco Bucci, for instance, right? Years ago, we're going back to videos he's posted almost a decade ago. And I remember him talking about, murdering your babies or whatever. I can't remember how he worded it. It's a very common phrase in art and stuff. Don't get too precious with your art. Don't get so caught up in your ego that you don't see your work objectively. Being able to look at your work objectively and saying, what's wrong with it? How do I need to fix it? What are my weaknesses? What are my strengths? What is it about this work of art that's holding it back? Right? And being able to deconstruct it from a technical, clinical perspective and turn it into something that works. Turn it into something that is a professional piece of artwork. And look at the way he teaches. Look at the kind of art that he produces. It is not a reflection of somebody who is just so passionate that it just comes out right. No, it's a guy who's got an incredible amount of passion for what he does, but has learned to see himself and regard his artwork from a professional's perspective. Think of it like this. Think of it like somebody works in ambulance, like paramedics or doctors. How good would a doctor be, despite how the fact that they got into this career to help people, which means they're probably incredibly compassionate, empathetic people. They're very sensitive to other people's feelings. They did dedicate their lives to the health of others. How effective would a doctor be if every single time they saw somebody suffer, they freaked out? They wouldn't last a day, would they? They have to be able to look at blood. They have to be able to listen to a child in excruciating pain. They have to be able to, watch a woman screaming during childbirth and be able to focus and plan and strategize and pay attention to these little body cues and pay attention to these different signs to be able to say, okay, this is what's happening. This is what we need to do. You go get that. You go get that. And be able to keep their calm and keep their cool and keep their breathing and their heart rate steady while they're performing a procedure that could, if they're 1 millimeter off, paralyze somebody for the rest of their life. That is an incredibly, incredibly stressful environment to be in. But they had to learn to master themselves in order to be able to do what it is that got them in there in the first place. Take care of people because they care. Period. And you as an artist have that same level of responsibility. You got into this with a passionate need to express yourself. But if you don't take control of that passion, if you don't learn how to manage that passion professionally, then all you are is a hippie. All you are is somebody who's got these big, wild, passionate dreams, but you ain't doing anything worthwhile with it. And very often as a teacher, one of the things that I very often notice is there are people that are very resistant to that practical feedback. I've noticed this a lot. I noticed that an artistic ego can be a pretty powerful thing. And sometimes, if I say, okay, I see what your intention is, and I can see that the way you express yourself verbally, the way you express yourself with your body language, the way you express yourself artistically is just riddled with feeling and passion. But that passion isn't resonating into your drawing. It's a lot of intention of passion, but then when it actually makes it onto the page, there's something's getting lost in translation there. And as a teacher, I have to be able to sit them down and say, no, wait, stop for a second. Pay attention to what you're doing here. What you're doing here is not conveying that message. You're describing what your intention is, but I'm not seeing that on your page. I'm not seeing that on your canvas. This is how you need to do it. And the receptive artists, the ones who are there, ready and willing to learn and are emotionally ready to learn, will look at that and go, okay, good. Yeah, no, I notice I'm doing that. I'm going to practice that this week. Good, thank you. You know? And they're respecting what I'm saying is not as elitism or me saying I'm better than them or me pointing out their flaws and telling them that they suck. They're regarding it as, no, he's trying to help me. He's picking it. He's digging into something that I've had a hard time seeing myself. And I see incredibly fast improvement in students like that. Then I get other students that go, yeah, no, I know that. Yeah, I've seen that a lot. I've described it in art talks in the past as, yeah, students. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. I'm like, yeah. How many people have you said yeah to, but that, again, is not translating into your artwork? And sometimes I have to get a little tougher with artists like that. Yeah, no, I get it. I go, okay, good, you got it. That's excellent, good. You keep saying yeah like you've heard this a million times. Good. So where is it then? Because I don't see it on your drawing. And they go, yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess I see your point. Yeah, no, I want you to improve. So you got to fix that because that's kind of amateurish. Okay, and I can see that they got a bit of a kick in the gut when I said it like that, you know. And I do empathize with that kick in the gut, but I'm sitting there going, you hired me to help you, so fucking listen. Okay, it's like something I'd mentioned Anthony Jones had said in the past. Somebody had asked him the question, what is the characteristic of students that improve the fastest? What's a common personality trait of students that improve quickly in your class? And he said, oh, that one's easy. They actually do what I tell them to do. Because good 85% of them don't. They go, thank you. And then they move on and they forget that I even told them. No, actually apply what I taught you, right? Do it. So it comes down to this. It comes down to a piece of advice that I got from my mother growing up. And it's something I've said in the past, and I'm going to reiterate it today. And I don't give a shit how redundant I'm being with regards to my earlier art talks. There's two sides of you that you need to fulfill. You need to fulfill the passion. If you don't, you're going to find yourself a middle-aged lady or gentleman who's just cheated on their very stable, very attractive spouse because they were sick and tired of the stability. They were sick and tired of living the straight and narrow life. And obviously, after years and years of people stepping on your passions, it never killed it. It keeps resurfacing itself and you're suffering, not fulfilling that side of yourself. That, to me, in and of itself, is testament to the fact that this isn't a passing flame, that this is you. This is truly a part of your DNA, your identity, your personality. It's who you are. So good. That's established. And then you have to fulfill the wise, practical, stable side of yourself. You have to find a way to translate that passion into a product, into a service that a studio or a client wants to have. You have to be able to manifest that passion into an artistic piece that brings value to the lives of somebody or a community. It has to be able to fulfill something in other people, otherwise they won't pay you for it. Right? They're just going to look and go, oh yeah, Adam likes drawing a lot. What does he do for a living? Oh, he just draws. Oh, he works in art? No, he draws. No, you want to have a career in art. To my friend in Germany, and to you listening, who want nothing more than to make a life out of this passion. Know, for starters, that passion of yours is the fuel that's going to keep you going for the next 100 years. Know it. Know that you need that passion. Never lose sight of it. Never let the practicality of art kill that flame. And if you have any very well-meaning loved ones in your life that are telling you, stop, you're ruining your life, or no, you'll never make it, well, they're wrong. They are wrong. You can make it if you truly want it. But at the same time, they're right in believing that you need more than just passion, that you also need wisdom. You need to think about who is receiving this art at the other end. You have to think about who is benefiting from your art outside of yourself. And if you can fulfill that, and if you can listen to your teachers, and if you can listen to professionals who get you, who understand you, who aren't trying to change you and make them carbon copies of themselves, but can actually respect you and your integrity as an artist and your vision as an artist, and can help you achieve that goal, then my dear, I can say with absolute certainty, nothing can stop you. All right? With that said, I love you all with all my heart, and happy painting. Take care.